All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball and baseball, fans of all ages, I am Beast Mikey. You have now arrived in my train of thought. It's time for the power rankings, but I'm going to do them a little differently this week. This time, it's going to be mixed with a baseball preview. I did say I was going to do that, and now I'm just going to drop it in this video, and it kind of sort of fits, because most of the teams in baseball are in a similar area with a team in basketball. Now, there's a couple of exceptions. You'll notice them as I paired these teams up with each other, so everyone had a dance partner. You'll notice the exceptions. There's one right off the top, but there's pretty much all linked together based off of their locations. And when it came to multiple teams in a particular city, Big Bro wins out. But you'll notice that as I go here too. Let's start where we always do, the 72, 73, 76ers tier. Utah, percentages and Padres. Now, this is obviously one of the few that really didn't match, but there just weren't many dance partners left. And in the case of the Jazz, okay, they lost 9 of 10. That's expected. And the Jazz obviously are going to have the 14% chance at winning the draft lottery. And that's kind of what we're expecting from Utah. The only question is going to be how many losses are they going to have going into that. As for the Padres, Jackson Morrell got paid earlier today. He's one of several Padres that have been paid a lot of money over the last few years. We know about Bogaerts, and we know about Tatis, and we know about Machado. Can they get the right pitching, though? We need to know about Musgrave, and he's good, but can Darvish have some more in the tank? So we're going to need to know about that. And can the rotation after those two, can they get it together and keep it together? Do they have enough to beat Big Bro up in LA? They didn't last year. They did in 2022. Where are they this year? We need an answer to that. Washington, lottery luck needed. They got it when it came to the Nationals back in December. They won that draft lottery for baseball. Can the Wizards, who are going to have the same amount of odds when it comes to the Jazz, the 14%, can they win this draft lottery upcoming? Now, Washington's been bad over the last week or so, but that's to be expected. When it comes to the Nationals, there's some decent young players here. Mackenzie Gore, I think, can be an ace at some point very soon. He was excellent against the Phillies on opening day. They've got some nice pieces scattered about their lineup, and I think Washington is probably a couple years away from really doing something of relevance. I like CJ Abrams. Rosario's fine. Ruiz is pretty good. Like, they've got James Wood, I think, is a solid hitter. They've got some pieces. They're just not ready yet, especially in the NL East, where you have three teams that, if they don't make the NLCS, we're wondering what in the world just happened. One of those teams is in Philadelphia. Harper and Wheeler. Okay, Sixers will get you out of the way first. And Joel Embiid finally got the surgery. Congratulations. You should have did this 2 months ago. Cool, fine. Sixers season, please end. Anyway, let's get to the real reason why we're here. From an outhouse team in the Sixers to a penthouse team in the Phillies, who are absolutely a World Series contender. How much time do they really have left with this core, though? That's the real question. Pretty much all of them are in their mid-30s. That's an issue that needs to be addressed, because though they do have some nice players on the way, in Crawford and in Miller and in Painter, they obviously are win now and are trying to get a ring while they still have all this core together. I think Harper wins MVP. I think now that he's a year removed from the Tommy John surgery and being healthy and playing excellent defense at first base, he might even win a Gold Glove too. I think Harper wins MVP. I think Zach Wheeler finally wins the Cy Young Award. And he finished second last year. He's been a high-tier pitcher, especially since he's become a Philly. I think that the Phillies are going to be serious contenders and probably have a really good record going into the playoffs. Now, can they not crumble like they did last year? Time will tell on that. New Orleans, Pelicans and Pirates. Lots of birds are going to be involved in a couple of these teams here. In the case of the Pelicans, yeah, your season's almost over. They're going to shut down Zion and CJ McCollum. Okay, cool, fine. They're thinking draft lottery. Can they get their third signature draft lottery win in 10 years? That's the question. They got Anthony Davis with one of them. Well, actually, it'd be 13 years. They got Anthony Davis with one of them. They got Zion Williamson with another one of them. Can they get another one in Cooper Flag, which probably spells the end of Zion Williamson in New Orleans, because that's kind of how this works. When it comes to the Pirates, they have generational talent in Paul Skeens, who has showed himself to be an excellent pitcher. And the Pirates staff as a whole, generally good. They got 3 really good pitchers. That hitting, aside from Brian Reynolds and Oneil Cruz, a little concerning. I need a big year from Ke'Bryan Hayes. I need to see that. How much does Andrew McCutcheon have left in the tank? Questions that will need to be answered for the Pirates. I just don't think they can keep up with a lot of the teams in the NL East or West. Central, not that great of a division, but we'll see if they can keep up. Charlotte, Baltimore starting rotation. Yes, the Hornets are bad. I think we've established that. And this is another one. It's another one of those things where, okay, location-wise, it doesn't really fit. But I'm not moving Washington out of Washington, because they already have a team there that just fits. Anyway, when it comes to the Orioles, I love the offense. The bullpen's pretty good. Bautista's back, and he's a really good closer. The pen is generally nice. I am very concerned about the pitching staff now that Corbin Burns is gone. Can the pitching keep up with the hitting? Because all those young bats in Baltimore can really get busy. I like Gunnar Henderson. He can absolutely win an MVP and probably will at some point in his career. Do they have the pitching? I need the answer to that, Baltimore. Brooklyn, Nets and Mets. And I think this fits way too well because of the whole Citi Field looking like Ebbets Field in terms of the exterior and all that good stuff, and being the secondary team in New York. I get it. One team has spent money, one team has not. But the Nets are trying to rebuild, to their credit, and to be fair to them. They're trying to A, rebuild, and B, they're trying to figure out what their future is. I can respect that. And I think Brooklyn will be fine if they get this right with the Cams and if they get their draft lottery pick right. The Mets are clearly going for it now. Soto is there, obviously. And you have Alonso, who is cooking. Frankie Lindor, got to see Francisco Lindor get back to what he was, because he started real sluggish. They have a very good offense. Their bullpen, at least when Edwin Diaz is on his game, their bullpen is stable enough where it'll be fine. That rotation, to me, is a little concerning, considering the other rotations they're going to have to deal with in October, more than likely. That's where my concern is when it comes to the Mets. And now let's get to the 71-72 Phoenix Suns tier. San Antonio, Gray and Arenado. Yeah, when it comes to the Spurs, things have obviously gone very south because the schedule got very hard down the stretch. So the pipe dream of San Antonio making the play-in without Fox or Wemby, that's effectively been shut down. As for a team that, like them, have had dominant runs in their team's history, and the Cardinals, Sonny Gray and Nolan Arenado, where will you be after July? Is this a matter of, okay, the Cardinals are going to build around these two guys, or are they going to trade and try to get as many prospects to refill and re-up what usually is an excellent prospect pool? The Cardinals, I feel like they're a team in transition and probably not anywhere close to ready to contend yet. Maybe in a couple of years, after a couple of these prospects get right, they will be. Toronto, will Vlad stay? Yes, it's not really much we can truly say when it comes to the Raptors, but this is more or less about the Blue Jays. Vlad's got one more year left in his deal, and he's going to get a lot of money when he gets paid. But will that be in Toronto? He's already turned down several deals there, and him and Bo Bichette are in a kind of a crossroads year in general. What do the Blue Jays do? They've been badly underachieving in this era. Do they keep them around? Do they try to pay them? What do they do next? I need answers. Portland. Julio wins MVP. Like the Spurs, the Blazers have kind of fallen back, and it's like, okay, they're not going to make it. But good strides have been made in the last couple of weeks with the Blazers. When it comes to the Mariners, and this fits, I think, because Paul Allen owned both teams, rest in peace to him, I think Julio Rodriguez is going to win MVP, and you'll understand why when I do my team predictions when it comes to the Seattle Mariners. I do love that pitching staff Seattle has. I am very concerned about that offense aside from Julio Rodriguez, Kyle Rowley, who just got paid, and Randy Arozarena. Miami, don't trade Sandy. the Heat have kind of sort of stabilized since, especially beating Jimmy Butler and the Warriors not too long ago. They've kind of looked better, which, okay, fine. I still don't trust you after the play-in game, assuming you even get out of that round, but they look at least viable in said play-in game. That news with Spoelstra and Jaime Jaquez, that is wild stuff. That's nasty work if it's true. Anyway, when it comes to the Marlins, there's not much here. Yuri Perez is really good, but the star of the show is Sandy Alcantara, who is a former All-Star and a former Cy Young Award winner, and the guy that is one of the, I would say, 10 best pitchers in baseball. It's just what it is. He had Tommy John last year and didn't pitch at all, and the Marlins cratered. Now he's back. The Marlins looks like a quad A team and looks like a quad A team and whose payroll is not higher than the Astros' dead money. That's actually true. The Astros have more in dead money than the Marlins do in actual salary. It's kind of wild to think, but it's the truth. Anyway, it feels like Alcantara is the next to go, right? This is how the Marlins usually do business. They pay bargain basement prices and try to get stars out of them and then trade those stars so they don't have to foot the bill. And it's kind of how this works when they rebuild things. Everything goes. Is Alcantara next? Chicago. Cubs, Cash, Counsell. I do think Craig Counsell wins Manager of the Year. And you'll understand, it's kind of a dead giveaway. I think the Cubs are going to make the playoffs. I also think that the Cubs going for it kind of sort of getting Presley and getting Kyle Tucker both out of Houston. Good look. Now, I do need to see Dansby Swanson continue to do his thing, and I trust that he will, and Sale Suzuki to do his thing as well. But Chicago is going for it, and I think it's a strike while iron is hot kind of division. Chicago might be able to do something here. And Phoenix, 2 windows closing. The Suns have looked bad over the last week. They've lost 5 straight, and Kevin Durant's injury issues are concerning. He may or may not be back in Phoenix next year. I think we've all established that the Suns' window is closing. Is all but closed, really. As for the Diamondbacks, maybe their window was surprisingly open, and it just couldn't keep it that way. It's a shame for Arizona. They had their dream run, their magical run of the World Series a couple years ago, but they just couldn't sustain it. Now, yeah, they paid Ketel Marte earlier today. He's one of their 3 best players. Sure. But I just don't know if they have enough. I just don't know if they have enough to deal with the Padres and the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Braves and the Mets. And I just don't see it from Arizona. Corbin Carroll could absolutely win an MVP. I think he will very well be in play. And if the Diamondbacks make the playoffs, he's going to be the primary reason why they do it. Even though Corbin Burns and Zach Gallen are a really good 1-2 punch. Losing Jordan Montgomery is a devastating loss, though. Let's get to the 93-94 Nuggets tier. Sacramento. John Fisher sucks. And for those who don't know who he is, that is the Oakland A's owner. Well, former Oakland A's, now Sacramento A's. They're just calling themselves the A's. They don't even want to associate with Sacramento. That is really unfortunate, even though they're going to basically be sharing that spot in the capital of California for the next 2 or 3 years before they go to Vegas. And I think we already know what's coming, right? They're going to try to hold things down for a couple more years, and then the second they get to Vegas, they're going to spend money, John Fisher will, and try to attract the Vegas crowd and the Vegas audience, and like, hey, I'm actually doing something, when we all see the scheme. I think we see this scheme coming, and it really is a shame and disrespectful for those in Sacramento who are currently there and in Oakland, because Brett Roker is really good, and they actually did spend some money, but this seems like it's going to be a terrible situation for all parties involved. The Kings, it feels like they're good team, just not enough to deal with the heavies in the Western Conference, unfortunately. Milwaukee, Jackson Chourio season. I think Chourio is a really good young star, and I think he could be really special in short order, to be honest. I think he's just that good. Now, sure, Christian Yelich can still ball out and still handle his, and Milwaukee's got a pretty decent lineup. Just, do they have enough, though? Do they have enough to get back to the playoffs? Do they have enough to win their division even as watered down as it is? Now, when it comes to the Bucks, without Damian Lillard, it's obviously been tough. And it feels like Milwaukee is doomed unless Giannis goes Super Saiyan again. That may also be needed. Dallas, Rangers resurgence year. Yeah, I think Texas is going to make another run at this. Their offense is legitimately nasty. As for the Mavericks, they look a little bit better lately since Anthony Davis has returned. Could Davis stay healthy enough for a playoff run? We will see. Back to the Rangers. I do think Bruce Bochy will win the AL Manager of the Year. You'll hear why in a moment, or at least when I get to my full-on predictions. But this Rangers lineup is absolutely gross, and pretty much everybody in it can hit. Their pitching staff, if healthy, I think they'll be fine. That means you, Max Scherzer. But that bullpen, a little concerning. I'd like to see that bullpen get a little bit better. Otherwise, I think the Rangers are going to be a really good team. Orlando, figure out stadium. This is not about the Magic. This is obviously about the Rays. When it comes to the Magic themselves, good story. Like where they came from. They somehow played worse with Paolo as opposed to without him. But I think it's probably not happening this year. The Magic will probably be out, either play in or be early fodder for Boston or Cleveland when it comes to the actual playoffs themselves. When it comes to the Rays, yeah, kind of reneging on the deal that could have got them a new stadium in Tampa proper, and not figuring that out is really disappointing. And I think people would actually pay attention to the Rays ownership had it not been for John Fisher. And in Oakland or Sacramento, or wherever they are in California, about to be Vegas, it's just a mess. I feel like the team is stuck in neutral until they figure out the stadium situation. And when they do, they'll probably be pretty good again because the Rays don't stay bad for long. Their prospect pool and their minor league system's too good to stay bad for long. Atlanta, Braves fans alarmed. So as of now, this is April 2nd, the Braves are the only team in Major League Baseball without a win. Now, to be fair to Atlanta, the Braves have faced the Padres and the Dodgers. Those teams have 0 losses. It's wild. The Padres are, I believe, 6-0. The Dodgers are definitely 7-0. They are currently playing the Dodgers they're both 7-0, actually. They are currently playing the Dodgers as of this recording, and the Braves are actually winning this particular game. Can the Braves actually get a W? We will see. Now, why is Atlanta not won? And this could be Hawks or Braves in this case. In the case of the Hawks, it's, all right, they're mediocre. That's kind of what it is. And there's no other way to say it. They're just a mediocre team. Slightly below average by record and just relatively mid. That's kind of where Atlanta's lot in life is. They'll be the 7 or 8 seed, which will give them at least a home game in the play-in, or if they lose play-in game 1, they have a home game play-in game 2. It's kind of where the Hawks are. For the Braves, that offense is not moving. Not at all. And that's concerning. Maybe part of that's because Ronald Acuna's not there yet, but that's part of the deal. And their pitching staff, Chris Sale, good. The rest of them, not great so far. That probably has to improve. And Memphis, electrifying Ellie. The Grizzlies are starting to concern me from their 2-8 stretch to now this latest incident with Ja Morant and the finger pointing with the guns. I would think that he would have learned by now. Wish I would have hoped that he would have learned by now, but as it turns out, he really hasn't. Hopefully that this doesn't go any further than that. But the Grizzlies went from potentially being the 2 seed to now all of a sudden they're currently the 6. And because it's the Western Conference, 6 may not be the end of it. They are tied with Minnesota and only a half game ahead of the Clippers. So it is very well on the board that Memphis falls to 7 or 8 and out of the you're locked into the playoff type of situation. As for the Reds, Ellie De La Cruz is special. He is a one of one, a potential MVP candidate, and the type of cat that you can build your team around. That's obvious. The Reds have a lot of young bats that are nice. Also obvious. I do not love that pitching staff. It is very concerning. Now, Hunter Green is a beast. Don't get it confused. He's not the one that I'm concerned about. It's kind of sort of everyone else. And I'm kind of concerned that the Reds won't be able to have enough pitching to deal with the heavyweights of the National League. That is where I kind of pull back on Cincinnati and their chances of making the postseason. Can they improve this? We'll see. Let's get to the 02-03 Kings tier. Indiana, Luis Robert watch. Now, the Pacers on the basketball court have been good lately. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They have been very impressive. They beat the Hornets tonight, Wednesday night, like they're supposed to. But I think Indiana's going to be fine. They've already clinched a playoff spot, and they're probably going to be the 4 or the 5 seed, depending on if the Pistons or the Bucks can catch them. And that's okay. You're in decent shape here. As for the White Sox, Luis Robert, he feels like he's the last kind of alleged core member standing from the 2020 White Sox team that was supposed to take off and become the next monster team in the American League, and it just never got there. Will they actually trade Robert? I kind of think they should, but I don't think they will. They don't seem very determined to do that. The White Sox actually got a couple wins so far in this young season, so it feels like they've made a little bit of progress compared to whatever we call last year, although a lot of us would just consider it the worst baseball season of all time. You had 121 losses. That is saying a lot. You have 2 wins, though. So you're 19 away from making sure that you don't set the record once again. Detroit, Cade and Skubal. Cade Cunningham, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I think is an All-NBA player. I think he needs to be on any of the 3 teams for the top NBA list. He probably would win Most Improved for a lot of people. I'm not sure that he should, because I think that award, I think it's lost its way, where it should be about a player that we never saw coming making a jump, as opposed to a player jumping from very good to top tier type of dudes. But I do like what I'm seeing from Cade, and I do like what I'm seeing from the Pistons. And the fact that they beat the Cavaliers without Cade, that's really impressive. As for Tarik Skubal, he is an excellent pitcher, worthy of the All-Star appearance he got, worthy of the Cy Young award he got, and he would probably fit the description of Most Improved if baseball had such an award. Anyway, the Tigers, I think their pitching is very solid. I think their pitching is very productive. I don't love their bats. I need their bats to do something. I need their bats to be somewhat productive. And if they are, I think they will be in very good shape. New York, Yankees torpedo bats. Speaking of bats, the Yankees got a bunch of them. And the Yankees are going to hit a lot. They have 3 MVPs at the top of their lineup, with Bellinger, Goldschmidt, Aaron Judge, obviously. Those 3 guys can rake. Jazz Chisholm is a really good player, and he's going to probably, because Yankee Stadium is basically a Little League ballpark, is going to probably go 30-30 easily, and maybe even 30-40. I think he could probably swipe 35 to 40 bags. I don't think it's going to be much of a problem for him to do that. And the Yankees are going to score a lot of runs. We saw the home runs they hit against Milwaukee. Milwaukee got bludgeoned to death by the Yankees' bats. The 9 home runs in a game. Yikes. 3 of them by Judge. The pitching staff, a little concerned about that. A little concerned. Without Garrett Cole, it turns a situation that's very, very ideal, potential return to the World Series type of flow to, I'm a little concerned, because do they have the top-end starters to get it done? Devin Williams is a really good closer, yes, but can you get it to him, pitching-wise? That is the question. Knicks-wise, the Knicks are fine. Nothing to really worry about. Just get healthy and get right so you can go to the playoffs, and you're probably the 3 seed, and you're probably going to get Milwaukee in round 1. Do what you need to do against Giannis. And Minnesota, learn from 24. This goes for the Timberwolves and obviously the Twins, who in the Twins case, they had the playoffs kind of locked up by the time we got to July, and we got through that and get into August, and then found a way to absolutely crater to the point where they were unrecognizable and a 4th place team. Yikes. Minnesota, in terms of the Timberwolves, there's not really much else to say except for, learn from the playoffs that you did well in last year, just didn't finish. You got beat by Luka pretty much. Learn from this. Minnesota Timberwolves are in good shape. They're going to make the playoffs, obviously. The question will be, do they have the play-in to deal with? And Rudy Gobert, will they find a way to use him, and Julius Randle for that matter, upon their health, properly in this playoff situation? If they don't, then they are probably not making the conference finals, or for that matter, getting that close to them. For the Twins, can their guys stay healthy? That's been their big bugaboo. Correa's very good, and Buxton's very good. They're legitimately productive in terms of their bats. The problem is those bats just don't stay around for a full year. Can they get 130 games out of Correa, Buxton, and a lot of their other regulars? If so, Twins should be okay and potentially get back into the playoffs. They have way too much potential to fail. They have way too much talent to fail as well. I just need to see them actually use it and be healthy enough to do it. Golden State, Stephen and Verlander. Steph Curry returned in a monster way recently. He also hit 12 threes in a game and almost broke the record for most threes in one. He's kind of like that, and when Steph Curry gets unconscious, it's almost impossible to stop what Golden State can do. For Verlander, another surefire first ballot walk into the Hall of Fame type of dude in the Bay Area when it comes to these two teams. How much does Verlander have left? And with the Giants, I am kind of concerned that they just don't have enough to deal with the juggernauts in the National League or to get past third place in the National League West. Also concerned about that. I do think the Giants are going to give teams fits just because of the way they do business. I just don't think they have the high-end talent, however, to get anywhere in a pretty crowded National League. And the LA Clippers, free Mike Trout. Okay, Clippers, that's not on you. Steve Ballmer, that's not your choice or your lot in life here. Instead, the LA Clippers' choice and lot in life is to try to break through when it comes to these playoffs. You're actually healthy for once, and with Harden and Leonard and Norman Powell and Zubats, who's been as steady as it gets, it's in play that the Clippers jump from their current 8th spot to as high as the 5. It's very well in play to do that if they get really hot and get some breaks along the way. Even the 4 seed's not out of bounds here. They're only 3 games behind Denver for that. The Clippers are in good shape here. They should be fine. They have enough depth. They have enough defense. They have enough coaching. They just need all 3 to be at their best when it comes to go time in the playoffs. James Harden, no more disappearing acts. As for Mike Trout, I feel bad for him. It feels like he's on an island, and there just isn't enough there alongside him. The problem is, I don't think Artie Moreno will ever trade him because he realizes if he does, what box office draw do you have? And in Los Angeles, you need one. At least one to survive in that town. Well, Anaheim, I guess, in their case. In any event, the Angels are probably going to be really bad again, and it's on the board of the worst team in the American League West, as long as the A's get their act together. If that's the case, what's going to be the point in even coming to see Mike Trout, as long as he's in an Angel uniform anyway? Let's get to the 95-96 Bulls here. We're staying in LA, but we're going to the Lakers. Non-bubble rings. We already saw the Dodgers win the World Series last year. And it's on the board, very well on the board for that matter, that the Lakers win the NBA championship in the next few months. For the Lakers to do that, LeBron's got to be healthy. Same with Luka. And Hachimura and Jackson Hayes, they also have to be healthy and productive. Austin Reeves has been very good for a lot of the season, and he too will have to be and remain productive. Can the Lakers do that? Yeah. Their defense has been rock solid since Luka came on, and that's not a sentence I was expecting to say, but it's the truth. As for the Dodgers, there's not much to say here. They are basically an all-star team playing 162 games. That's terrifying. Pretty much everybody in their bullpen's been in an all-star game, or as a high-tier closer type of dude. Yikes. They have the best player in the world in Shohei Ohtani. They have a top 5 player in Mookie Betts. They have 2 other top 30 players in Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez. Not to mention the fact of Max Muncy and Will Smith, who are also very good players. This is a nasty team with dudes that can rake 1 through 9 pretty much. And their best pitcher is it may not even pitch this year in Ohtani. Yeesh. And Roki Sasaki's going to win Rookie of the Year. I think I'm just going to drop that in there right now. The Dodgers have not lost, and the Padres haven't either, which is going to make things very interesting if they play each other. By the way, Dodgers-Phillies this weekend, that could be a preview of things to come. Houston, 2 different eras. One feels like it's about to begin. The Rockets just clinched the playoff spot for the first time in what seems like years. And this Houston team is young and hungry, and I think the Rockets could give the right team fits. I don't know about a veteran team with competent depth, but they could give a decent team, like currently they're the 2 seed, right? Say Minnesota's the 7 seed. Yeah, they could beat Minnesota. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility just because of the young legs and athleticism. And they could beat the Clippers for similar reasons. I think they would wipe the floor with Dallas or Sacramento, but they could absolutely beat whoever the 7 seed is at this current moment in time, whether it's Minnesota or the Clippers at this current moment, because that'd be the 7-8 play-in. If they were to face a team in round 1, like hypothetically Denver or the Lakers in round 2, they could face either of those teams in round 2, and I think they're in trouble. But the Rockets are rolling right now. They're staying relatively rock solid and hot. And I see no reason why Houston can't get at least to round 2 and then take their lumps in their learning experience year. As for the Astros, it feels like their era is basically ending. Altuve's still very good. Yordan Alvarez is still one of the most feared hitters in the game. The problem is, it just doesn't feel like they have enough. And it feels like they are not waving the white flag. It's just they're trying to reset things on the fly as long as they have Altuve and Alvarez. And I just don't think Houston is going to have the horses to make it happen this year, at least the Astros. And the pitching-wise, I do need to see the pitching get a little bit better going forward. Other than that, the Astros, they've had a great run of success. I just don't know if it's going to be enough for them this time. Denver, Kris Bryant, Cliff. Now, the Nuggets will be all right. As long as Jokic, Murray, Mike Porter, Aaron Gordon, those 4 guys are healthy, they're going to give pretty much every team that makes the playoffs fits. Tonight, Wednesday night, if you will, they lost to the Spurs, but Jokic didn't play. So, okay, cool, fine. Good for San Antonio. Denver, just don't lose enough ground where you could lose home court advantage and end up in a situation where you're the 5 seed. Let's not do that. But the Nuggets will be all right. As for the Rockies, at least you're not the White Sox, I guess. Nor do you have ownership that's completely trash, like the A's or the Rays. At least there's that. Kris Bryant, though, how did he fall off this fast and this badly? That's the question I kind of have here. What happened? The moment he signed his contract, it's as if he got poached by the Monstars or something. Like, he don't have the Space Jam powers anymore. He looks nothing like the MVP that he once was. Maybe some of it's injuries, but a lot of it's just weird, bad play. I just can't understand or explain how this happened. The Rockies are a young team. They got some decent young players. Ryan McMahon's always been a very good third baseman and probably doesn't get anywhere near the love that he should because he's in Colorado and nobody pays attention to him. But Ryan McMahon's a really good player, and Tejada's a good first baseman, and they're got some decent young players. It's just, and Freeland's a decent pitcher. It's just they have nowhere near enough. And Kris Bryant's contract is looking like a very bad anchor that they have no chance of getting rid of. Yikes. Boston, Campbell and Crochet. I think Christian Campbell is going to win Rookie of the Year in the American League. I think he's going to be just like, I think they're probably, ironically, going to Kris Bryant him, where he comes up 3 weeks after he should because of the whole, like, accrued, like, time, like, veteran time, like, baseball thing. It's kind of a weird rule that I've seen done over the years where teams will wait, like, 3 weeks for a guy who should be up opening day, but they take the 3 years to get the service time in, get the extra year of service time where you can keep a player on a team. But they already paid him a contract, too. They actually gave him a deal earlier yesterday. But I think Campbell's going to be a really good player. And a Boston lineup that's sneaky good. They don't have anybody that's like over the top crazy, but they have a lot of just overall solid depth. And I think the Red Sox are going to be very productive. Alex Bregman's a good player, obviously. Still very good. So I think he'll be fine. But can Boston find their way back into the postseason? Trevor Story, we're going to need to hear from you. And we're going to need to hear from you quite frequently. Garrett Crochet, I think, will win the Cy Young. I think he'll win the American League Cy Young, and I think he'll be very productive for the Red Sox this year. I think he's going to ball out, and now that he has an actual team around him as opposed to just not good situation there. So I think the Red Sox are going to be back in October. Legitimately, I think they're going to be good. It's just a matter of how far they go if they get there. Celtics will be fine. There's nothing really to worry about here. They're going to, again, have the quietest 60 wins you've ever heard. Cleveland, can Guardians score? Other than Jose Ramirez, I'm a little concerned about the rest of you. I do wonder about the rest of that lineup. Can it provide enough punch along with Jose Ramirez to get the Guardians back to October? As we know, the Guardians were 5 wins away from a title last year. And they just didn't have anywhere near enough horses to deal with the high-end talent that the Yankees brought. I'm not necessarily asking for high-end stuff from Cleveland. I'm just asking for them to have decent offensive depth. Give me that, and I think the rest of it's going to work itself out. The rotation's usually always good, and the bullpen's one of the best in the game, especially Class A, who might be the best closer in the game. I just need the offense not named Jose Ramirez to do its part. The Cavaliers are going to be fine. I'm not really worried about them. They're going to have the 1 seed. And even with their mediocre play as of the last couple of weeks and maybe month even, they have lost pretty much no real ground on Boston in terms of the 1 seed. So they're going to be fine and have that. Just get healthy for the playoffs and you're going to be fine, Cleveland. And Oklahoma City, with MVP watch. SGA should win the NBA MVP this season and in a few weeks. Meanwhile, it's on the board that the MLB American League Most Valuable Player becomes Bobby Witt Jr. Why? Because they're going to need him, Kansas City will, to be as dominant as humanly possible for them to make that playoff run. Now, I do think the Thunder are going to be just fine. They're going to be the 1 seed in the West, and they won't be challenged until probably round 2. They're going to destroy whoever they get out of the play-in game. As for the Royals, Seth Lugo, very good year last year. Could he follow that up? I would expect him to. Can they get enough offense aside from Witt Jr.? That means you, Salvi Perez, who I expect you to deliver the goods. And that also means Pasquantino to handle his and get back to the promise that it looks like he was showing early on. I'm going to need him to produce. I'm going to need him to step his game up as well. With that, the Royals should actually be decent and either back in playoff contention or back in the playoffs proper. I'm just going to need the offense to do its part. Their bullpen's generally good, and I think they're going to be okay with their pitching as well. I just need the offense to do its part. So there you have it with the MLB preview and kind of sort of power rankings for the NBA. There really wasn't much to say here because a lot of it was relatively stable NBA-wise. But here are my team predictions, because you heard me sprinkle in the individual awards for the baseball season. Here are the team ones. I'm going to start in the American League, and I'm going to go, obviously, with the playoffs once I get to them. 1 seed, Texas Rangers. I think they'll win the American League West. That offense is too good. 2 seed, give me Boston. I think the Red Sox overall depth and talent, I think, is going to carry the day here. I really like the Orioles hitting. I don't love their pitching. So that's why I think the Red Sox are going to be the 2 seed. 3 seed. I think it's going to be the Guardians. I think the Guardians pitching is good enough. And their offense, when it's on point, sneaky good. I just needed to be more consistent, and I'd feel much better about it. Maybe one more legitimate power hitter, and I'd feel way, way better about the Guardians offense. So those are my division winners. My wildcard teams, I'm going to have Seattle, Baltimore, and the Yankees as my 4, 5, and 6. And what I like about Seattle, obviously the best pitching staff in the game. I think they're going to be legit. Arozarena, Raleigh, and I think the American League MVP, like I mentioned, and Julio Rodriguez are going to have to carry it. But I do think they're going to do just enough for them to do so. Baltimore, lots of bats. Don't love the pitching, but I do think they got lots of bats and enough of them to get them back to October. And the Yankees, similar deal. Lots of bats. A better rotation than Baltimore, but I am a little concerned about the top-heavy status and the loss of Garrett Cole. At some point, I think it's going to rear its ugly head. So, I do have the Yankees, however, beating the Guardians in a best 2 out of 3. And I think Seattle will beat the Orioles. That means, because baseball doesn't reseed, it's going to be Yankees are going to end up facing Boston in the ALDS. And I think Boston's going to beat them probably in a 4-game series. I think it's going to beat them 3-1. As for Seattle versus Texas, I'm going to take the Rangers and their bats in a really good 5-game series. I think the Rangers pitching will be just good enough. As long as they don't have to rely on the bullpen, I think they're going to be in decent shape. And my American League Championship Series, Boston versus Texas, I'm going to take Texas. Boston, I think, will be good. I think this will be a 6-game series, but ultimately, I think a little bit better of the Rangers, who are kind of sort of on a revenge tour. Rangers go to the World Series. To the National League, 1 seed, Dodgers. Not much else I really need to say there. 2 seed, Phillies. I think the Phillies rotation is the best in the National League, and you got 4 legitimate arms who could be aces on a lot of different staffs. The bullpen needs some work, or at least needs some consistency. And I think the bats are going to have to be stable. I trust that they will be. And I think Dombrowski will make a move in July if he has to. 3 seed, Cubs. Not a good division. I think the winner of it is probably going to have like 85 wins. But I think Chicago's the best of the lot. And I think the Cubs are going to win their spot in as the playoffs. I think the move for Kyle Tucker will work. And especially be that move that works. And now your 3 wild cards. I'm going to say will be Braves, will be Mets, will be Padres. Now Atlanta, not looking good. Atlanta, before the season started, was the team I thought would make the 4 seed. And yeesh, they have not got out the blocks well. Getting swept by the Dodgers and the Padres to start the season. 0-7, and it looks bad. Like their pitching has been kind of hit and miss. Their bullpen, no bueno. Chris Sale, good. A lot of their staff, not so great. You have an offense that's incredibly inconsistent and can't get the big-time money hits when you absolutely have to have them, which in itself is a concern. Now, sure, the Braves are going to win games. They're not going to go 0-162. At least many of the ops would hope that's the case, but they're not going to go 0-162. They're going to figure something out. They're going to have to, right? You can't fall behind too far behind the Phillies and Mets, who, in the Phillies case, have already started 4-1, and in the Mets case, they're at least decent. They're at least okay. But the Braves are going to figure something out. They don't have a choice. Plus, Ronald Acuna and Spencer Strider are going to have to get healthy at some point. Mets, I think, are going to make it, and a lot of it because of Soto, and a lot of it because of their offense. I don't love that pitching staff at all, at least the starters. The bullpen's fine, usually, but the pitching staff, but the starters, a little concerning. But I do think the Mets are going to get in the playoffs because of that offense. And now let's get to the Padres, who, for similar reasons, I think are going to get in. I just don't think they're as good as the Braves or the Mets. Or at least I don't think they will be over a 162-game season. I think the Padres do get in, and as the 3 seed, I think they do beat the Cubs. And I think they're going to end up facing the Phillies in round 2. Braves and Mets fight to the death for 3 games, and I hope it's like game 161 that they had last year, because that was amazing in Atlanta. Ultimately, I think the Braves are the better, at least will be the better team by this point. Atlanta moves on. Atlanta faces the Dodgers round 2, and at least the NLDS, and they will lose in 4 games. Phillies, Padres, same amount of games, Phillies win. Phillies win 3-1. And now the NLCS. I think this weekend will be a preview of that series. Phillies, Dodgers, it goes 7. Ultimately, I think the Phillies will win the series in 7 games. I think the Phillies are on a mission to win the championship, and I think this is their last legitimate shot with this core. Now, maybe they rebuild it, but as it stands now, Harper, Turner, Schwarber, Realmuto, Castellanos, I think this is their last real shot. And I think the Phillies make good on it. They beat the Rangers in 6 games. Their pitching is better than Texas's is. So I'm going to take the Phillies to beat the Rangers in the World Series. Harper finally gets a World Championship ring. So there you have it. That is my power rankings for the first week of April, and that is my predictions for the 2025 Major League Baseball season. What are your predictions for baseball? Who do you think wins the awards? Who do you think wins the title? Does anyone beat the Dodgers? Do they or the Padres actually lose a game that they're not playing against each other, because they have a lot of those? Post your picks below. And I didn't forget, Dolphins mock drafts are coming. They will drop later this week, and that will be the first stop of my next train of thought.